Good evening. I'm Jerry McIntosh, and this is Our Voices, the People's Media. Tonight, we're going to address why HBCU have long been a target for racial backlash. And how well do you know your friends? Also, Florida wants to change the law so that DeSantis can run for president and still be governor at the same time. So we're going to address that in other hot topics. But let me go to our host, Mr. Bill Snow, who is the author of the great book, From the Project to the Boardroom. Mr. Derek Scott, who is with the White House Task Force on COVID and also the Black Caucus. Vernon Watson, who owned WBQP TV, who you'll be watching this show on WBQP TV, as well as our Facebook page, as well as his Facebook page, as well as his YouTube channel, Roku, and Fire Stick. So, and then Carol McIntosh, who is a former educator, principal administrator, and Carol, we'll get right into it.
All right, another Sunday, everybody. But last Thursday was Thanksgiving. So, I'm going to go around and ask what happened and tell me a little bit about what you did. I'm going to start with Derek. What's going on, Derek?
Well,
what did you do Thanksgiving? What you eat?
Thanksgiving was okay. It was uneventful. I didn't have to forage or scavenge.
Oh, you did? Oh, you did?
I was able to have wonderful smoked turkey. We had I had smoked turkey and greens, but I will say, I say it was wonderful. I did end up in the emergency room.
Derek?
Yeah, well, it was a big deal because I thought I was going to die, but
no.
I had the smallest sliver of turkey. It was impacted in my esophagus, my throat, and it wouldn't go down. It was stuck. So I couldn't swallow anything. I couldn't do anything liquid. So it got out, but turns out I got a inflamed esophagus from some acid reflux. So I've got to go see a doctor. But I was like, oh Lord, this is the worst thing to know. How did he pass? He choked on a piece of turkey. But luckily I was okay.
We are so glad about that. What about Black Friday? Did you stand in line to go?
No, there was nothing that I wanted. Nothing that I wanted at this point to be standing in those long lines. So, Thank you.
So one more thing before I go to the other host. I heard you're running for an office. Can you just share it?
Yes. So, I've been holding it under wraps, but I am officially submitting my name for candidacy for the chairmanship for the Escambia Democratic Party. If you don't already, for those who don't know, I'm currently the vice chair for the party. And we've done a lot of good work, within the past several years under our chairmanship and leadership with Lil Eubanks, particularly around getting involved in the community and so things of that nature. And I just want to continue that as we move forward with our party. So I would encourage any of you who are not active in the party to please get active by becoming a precinct committee person. We can talk more if you have questions about what that entails. I'm happy to answer them for you, but I'm hoping not only that you'll get involved in the party, but you also support me as I bid for our chairmanship in January.
Derek, one more thing before we go to the next. What kind of impact do you think you're going to have? What do you want to see happen as the chair of the Democratic Party here in the state? So
one of the things I think I prided myself on in the last 2 years that I've been involved as vice chair and within the party, I should just say, is that our continued presence within Black and brown communities. Historically what you've seen, not necessarily, I will say for Escambia, as well as other Democratic spaces, you only see candidates in the party during election season. You don't see them any other time. And I want to make sure that our party continues to be a voice in the community, a point of contact for the community if they're, anything that they can depend upon, and become a staple, so to speak, just like NAACP, just like Movement for Change, just like all of those other groups. I want us to be here. So when it comes time for elections and then any other time, they know, okay, we can depend on the party. They're not just here for us during the election cycle that we're going to be here. And two, focus a strategy on getting the youth involved, as well, and not just youth, but also our registered voters. It's not enough to just register new Democratic voters, but we've got to take those new Democratic voters as well as those who are already registered and make sure that we get them to the polls. So we aren't worried about, oh, we only have 30% turnout. Oh, we only have 50% turnout. We need to be all the way 100%. Is that possible at this time? It's going to take some time, but I'm hoping that, with my candidacy and as chair, we can take the steps necessary to get there.
Sounds like a good plan, Derek. Good luck.
Thank you.
You have our support, our voices, community conversations, and any other show that we might create you all, because you're creating shows for the needs in the community. So you have our support. Oh, I see Christina's on, but Christina, we're just going around briefly talking about the holidays and what happened and anything else you want to talk about. We want everyone to be comfortable with our host. I see here that Lois Blessed Pruitt, she's comfortable with all of us. If you have any type of show, Lois Blessed Pruitt is going to be on there watching and supporting you. So Bill, getting to you with that, I see her when I do tune in to your Sunday school show, she's always the first one of the first ones on, isn't she?
Well, she gives me plenty of hearts and amens, and that is very important. Anybody knows anything about speaking knows that it does something when somebody, gives you a thumbs up or an amen or so be it. So she is very supportive, a dynamic friend. I'm so grateful to the two of you, Jerry and Carol, for meeting and coming across her great book. I love her book. It inspires me. And she's very supportive. If we all just had a Lois Blessed in our corner. I
tell you, not only is she supportive with just watching the shows, she actually is a supporter and a contributor. So she's awesome. And we just wanted to shout that out, shout her name out and what she does for this show. But how was your Thanksgiving, Bill? I saw table. Were you at your house? Because I saw tables outside.
That was my sister, actually. She did the spread for the family. Okay. She's been the mother figure in the last 7 years to me after my mom left us. But we had a great time. The collards, the dressing, the cranberry, I'm still eating on. Some people are tired of it, but I love Thanksgiving for 3 reasons. It's food, family, and fun. And that's what I look forward to. And I took me a to-go plate to work on Friday, and I was eating on it Saturday, and I had some more dressing and cranberry and collards today. I love Thanksgiving, and I love what the meaning of it for us is. Yes, ma'am. I ate well and had fun.
Well, you're one of those people I saw on Facebook where this guy came out of dinner and he had plates this high. It might have been a little skip for the guy. The owner house came home. He said, "What you doing with the food?" He had all up here walking out the guy's house with the food. So it seemed you had a stack like that too.
No, I took my to-go thing, but I didn't know not stacked. But I promise you, I feel my to-go up pretty good.
Did you go out Black Friday?
Man, no, ma'am. I ain't got nothing to give merchants that are raping us anyway.
Well, hey, I guess we're at this point. Christina's young, younger than us, I'll say. So maybe she went out. But we're going to go to, I don't know if Vernon, he's doing something else, but Christina, what did you do?
Hi, so thank you. I'm so glad to be here. So Thanksgiving Day, I cooked. I was actually a little sad. I have 3 boys. 2 of them are in college, and the 2 in college couldn't come home because they're still in California. So it was me, my husband, and my youngest. And I was like, hey, do you just want to go out to eat? And, that way you can get basically whatever you want. And he's like, is that a question? It's like, no, you need to cook. so, so I thought that was really cute. So I cooked, and then I didn't go out the next day, but my husband did, and got a new TV. So he was super excited. So.
Oh, good. Sounds like a nice Thanksgiving holiday and good Black Friday. I'm gonna jump to Jared. Tell him what we did, Jared.
Went by her nephew house and scavenged.
We did bring
Yes.
some too.
Yeah, and went back yesterday and got some too. Yeah, but we had a great time with them over there. They had a nice spread laid out. So yeah, with Bill, the 3 F's: fun, family, and friend.
Yes.
I have to ask Bill, what was the game that you all were playing on Facebook with the cards and you pull something?
Man, it's a really good game. It's simple rules, but if you got 8 players, you only use 7 spoons. And everybody gets dealt 4 cards, and the first one to get 4 of a kind has to pull a spoon, and somebody's not going to get a spoon, and whoever doesn't get a spoon is out. And you do that all the way until the last person is standing. It's a really fun game.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was interesting. And I like the way they were outside. I thought it was at Bill's house. I told Jared, Bill, being careful with COVID.
Yeah.
That's my sister being careful. We had a great time.
So, we just
I want to say thanks to everybody that wished us and celebrated with us our anniversary from on the 20th. We want to thank everyone for that. And I see my sisters on Aura Lacey, who is live in Arkansas. I want to say hello to her and thank her for always following us and on the show, and as well as all the well wishes that she always give us on our
she's always
anniversary.
on there too.
And every morning she sent me something, say something, good morning, something. So thanks as always. Love you too.
and we do not want to. This is a time of letting our friends know how much we care about them before we actually get in the show. But Alan Young, Bill, he's a big supporter, and also Helen Stokes, another big supporter. And of course, they're on right now as they normally are. So we really, really appreciate that. Derek, I know maybe on the other end, we might not see all of the people that's on the show and supports us, but I know on WBQP TV, there might be some people, Derek, that are ardent supporters. Christine might know that watch the show quite a bit. Do you, Derek?
Well, shout out to my mother who is watching on the television, and the Corby family who tunes in as well, and family that's all the way out in Mississippi and Texas if you're watching. Thanks for watching. We're glad to have you. We hope that you enjoyed today's program.
Good. Good. Jill is on, and so happy belated Thanksgiving, and we're glad to see that everybody's, like I said, the gang is back together again.
Deborah Thompson. I remember she lived in Tampa. She is watching tonight also.
Okay. Hey, Deborah, how are you doing? Good.
Hey, Arthur Deb. Hello, Arthur.
Yeah. So let's get started, you all. There are quite a few things. Well, I would say there's always something that's happening. I want to start with Florida. When DeSantis was running for office, and I remember Charlie Crist said during their debate that if DeSantis won, that he couldn't carry out his term if he ran for president of the United States. And so, like Jared had mentioned, that the Florida lawmakers are looking to change the law so that Ron DeSantis can run for president and keep his governorship. So what do y'all think about that? Can that happen, or does he have to give up that position? Anyone? Derek? Christine? Jill?
So what I would say is right now, the state legislature has a supermajority. So that means that they can actually ram any bill through. They don't have to hold debates because of the amount of power that they hold. All the rules change with this upcoming, because of the results of the upcoming election. So the Republicans hold a supermajority in both the Florida State House and the Florida State Senate. So again, they don't have to hold debates. They have a veto-proof majority. They are really, really powerful. So yes, could they? Absolutely. Right now, they can honestly pass any law they want. It's just within their own party. Can they agree on it? But as far as what the Democratic stance is in the state house and everything else, we'll be talking about it. But as far as what we have the power to do, it's not going to be a lot. So usually when somebody would run for an office like that, they would have to give up their seat to run. He's not going to do that. And what it sounds like is like the state legislature is going to support that. I haven't heard the Republicans saying anything otherwise. So it's really a wait and see. But like I said, with the supermajority, I would really look for laws like that to be coming out. I'd be looking for open carry laws to be coming out. And I would be looking for
Florida?
absolutely, yes, absolutely.
That's scary.
100%, yes. And then I would also be looking to see for stricter abortion laws with this new supermajority.
She whiz.
Yeah, they are vicious too with that kind of power, and that's why we're fighting so hard to get people to turn out and vote, because once you give somebody that kind of power, they said power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. So the thing about it is, it's already there's nothing but corruption there. When DeSantis made it so that they could gerrymander 2 African-American seats out of existence, that let you know right there that people should have turned out in masses to make sure that that didn't take place. But like you say, it's a done deal now. The thing about it, what we're going to do for the future, what strategies we have going to put in place to make sure that we get some of those seats back. So at least they won't have a supermajority.
So that brings us to the point, we've talked about this before on the shows. So that gets us to go to the importance of continuing to plan for the 2024 election. We can't stop now. We've talked about that. Some people might think after the Georgia election, even whoever wins that, then we're finished until 2024. And so we've got to get that out that we're not finished. And how can we do that, Derek?
We just got to continue on, working, whether we're talking about getting people out to vote, getting people registered, and making sure we do our best to hone in on a more acceptable message. We haven't done a great job at the messaging standpoint, but I think we need to still continue on that standpoint and move forward in that manner.
Jill, what's your opinion? We can't let people become complacent and, like they're saying, just get out, just go to the house, knock on their door, call them during election time. We have to do it year round. What are some of your suggestions?
Well, I know in Okaloosa County, so Christina, Derek, you guys will have to kind of chime in if this is correct for your county, but in Okaloosa County, come January 1st, everyone who was registered for vote by mail goes to 0. So we are already starting our campaign on how do we now re-register everybody for vote by mail. So I think that's one of the things we have to really make sure that people are aware that, yes, you might have done it, and yes, you might think it's over, but we're starting really from scratch. The other thing I would say is that Derek's right with messaging, but I also think that we should do I don't know, I hate to give a time limit, but some type of listening tour, because I think they don't understand where we miss. I don't know that we understand where we miss, because we all tried really hard to make sure that we put everything out there with this show and all of the different opportunities that we put together, but we still miss. And there's still people that are saying, you didn't resonate with me, you weren't speaking to me, I didn't hear from you, I didn't know who the candidates were. So there's still something missing, and we can't rely on the party. And let me say this nicely, in the state of Florida, I think from the party top to the bottom, everybody needs to do a listening tour and recreate something that works. Not use what we've used in the past, not stop the things that work, but don't rely on the system and the process that we've relied on for so long, because the end game was a total loss.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things that's needed badly is the financial side of it, so that people can do exactly what you are talking about, Jill, going on that listening tour to bring people together and see, to get information, to catalog whatever is needed to make sure that information goes up the food chain to everybody else that's supposed to be getting information from the general public, which many times is not the case.
So with the listener tour, I really, really like that idea. And do you think that our shows, that the Let's Talk Voting, or we're really now trying to strategize everyone, because you have to do this in order to make, to start thinking about it now, to start your programs at the beginning of the year. And if you're on Facebook, or if you have any kind of way to communicate with any of the hosts, please let us know what your suggestions would be, so that we can add that to our list. Because like Jill said, that we might be missing a point with some people, and we want to know how to connect with those people, exactly what would empower them to go out and participate in the voting system. One of the things that I really want to do again is the educational component to voting. I really, really, really care about educating the people on Civics 101. Jerry talks about this all the time. Exactly. Let's go with what are the roles of the president. Talk about the Senate and the House. Start from the basics and start building up, letting them know what the terms are, and empower them. So in 2024 or 2023 with the primary, they'll be ready.
Yeah. I just want to say, we talked about how we miss, and particularly how we miss in the state of Florida. It didn't really, it resonated with me clearly, because, it didn't have, you don't have to, all you have to do is see the sea of red in the state that, came out of result of the elections. But it really did not resonate to me until, in particular with our area, how much of I thought we did a phenomenal job, but we still have a long way to go, which was emphasized here in Pensacola. Was that 2 weeks ago? We had the Belmont of the Villas Festival, and the feedback from those who were present. If you didn't know, Matt Gates was there from the beginning to the end of the festival, and what everybody said was the amount of Black folks who ran up to that man and were like, "We voted for you. You're the best." Da 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 da. Clearly says to me, as much work as we did, we still have a long way to go. Because, and I'm not knocking the work that we did. I think we did exemplary work. But to have, they were like at least 75 to 100 Black people who were there were talking about, "We voted for you. You are a congressman." And he's like, "Thank you." It says a lot to me, because I'm like, well, where did we go wrong? Where all these people, if you're active enough to go to a festival, you're active enough to be politically engaged. And the fact that you could be Republican, you could be NPA, you can be whatever you like to be. But the fact of so much wrong being done to Black citizens in the state of Florida, that you feel comfortable enough to run up and say, "Oh yeah, you are a congressman, we voted for you," says a lot to me. So we still have, as much as we have to do, we still have a lot to go. And it's those people that we need to figure out a strategy, a path if we look at victory, not say converting them, but just get them to understand why that wasn't the best choice for them to make. You know, we still need to figure out why that is.
And I think, Derek, that's why I say the listening tour, because maybe if they were in the room, they could share why they thought that was the best decision. And then we can then redirect that to maybe the truth, or at least understand what avenue or area do we need to maybe explain better or get more information out on.
Right.
It just gives us that opportunity, because without that open door conversation, they're going to continue to do what they do, and we're going to continue to do what we're doing. And we want to bring it together so that we're working together, we're making the difference together instead of everybody just doing their own thing.
Also, Deborah Thompson on our Facebook stream says she is absolutely right. We could do better. We could do business. We cannot do business as usual. We need to find out what is working and what is not working so we can make changes that will resonate with voters.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Matt Gaetz' record speak for itself. And so, you know, for any Black person that live here in the Northwest Florida area to say they are supporting him, I mean, you know, each his own, but I mean, it's their right. But by the same token, you are not concerned about the masses of your people for all of the things he's said and done voting against your voting rights and everything else. I mean, how can you vote for anybody who express concern is to take away your right to participate in the franchise that you live in, and you know, and not be concerned about what's happening to yourself? Oh, wow, that's deep.
Yeah.
Christina?
Can I just say, like, I thank you so much, Derek, for sharing that. I mean, I just really want to say that Matt Gaetz is the person who stood up after the insurrection, after helping plan the insurrection, and then blamed it on Antifa.
Yeah.
In the Congress halls, in the halls of Congress. That's what he did.
Yeah.
Like, this is the man who said he would not change one damn comma after Trayvon Martin was killed. And the stand your ground laws. I mean, yeah, I mean, we're missing the mark. I mean, I just can't tell you how much that, thank you, Derek, for sharing that. I mean, that's just.
And not only that, they, you know, him and his ilk, they all attacked the Black Lives Matter movement for just participating in all of the, you know, to try to bring attention to all of the unjust killing that was taking place by law enforcement, and they were supporting that. So for, you know, that's why it's so so strange to me that anybody, you know, that's Black in this country could support anybody like Matt Gaetz, his minions that run with him.
Yeah, I really think. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I mean, he hired the Proud Boys for a local election event right here in Santa Rosa County. I mean, hired the Proud Boys as security.
Yeah.
I mean, oh.
So to me, it's not, you know, I don't think it's just we should all take on the blame for what went on, because we worked hard. I think that blame also should go to the people that, what were they doing that they weren't aware of the situations that were going on, because it's on the news, it's everywhere. I think the blame, it's not, the word blame is not what I want. The misinformation, maybe that's better. How are these people getting misinformation or not any information at all? And then the question is, how are we going to expand the information to reach more people with an understanding? So I don't want to say that personally that we're saying, well, how are we going to reach more people, and we've got to change this and we've got to do that. But then we have to put some onus of individual responsibility to know who to vote for, because it's on the internet. You can Google names. there's got to be some individual responsibility on everyone.
There does, but we also, and I think to your point, blame is probably the wrong terminology or nomenclature to use. Maybe we look at opportunities for additional success, and what it says to me, and again, I'm going to speak in a generalization. This doesn't apply to everybody, but there is no reason for anybody of color in Northwest Florida, or the state of Florida, to look at all that has gone on and say, I think the best decision for me and my black skin, or me and my brown skin, is to vote for Matt Gaetz, is to vote for Ron DeSantis. I can't say to the point that you just made, it's everywhere. There's information is all over the place. So there's, ignorance is not an excuse. So then you have to ask, well, it's not, I refuse to accept that it's ignorance. Oh, I just didn't know. That's impossible.
That's it.
But it's impossible for you not to know. So then that says to me that there is another reason. What is that reason? I have my own suspicions on sometimes about why certain people do certain things, and but it doesn't apply in this scenario because those people didn't fit, my generalization as I would typically make. So then it's kind of like, not necessarily what aren't we doing or what are we doing, but where, can you change those people who willfully want to do something else?
That's it.
And that's the question that we have to ask, and whether it's time that you want to invest the time, the resources, the energy to I hate to use the word convert, so I'll just say educate those who think differently. Everybody's entitled to think how they want to, but I don't understand and can't fathom why someone would willingly make a decision to the detriment of themselves, their family, and their being in a state of knowledge, so it has to be something else. And that's the piece that I would like to understand what that is.
Well, Deborah Thompson on our live Facebook stream says the Democratic Party's got to stop playing lip service and make a stand for what we truly believe. Where's the enthusiasm? She asks. She comes back to say more voter education is needed throughout our state. Deborah Thompson on live Facebook stream.
And I truly believe that.
Yeah, I was about to say it's similar that, people have to understand the successions of power in the country and how it works. And that's where civic lesson in education comes in, because people don't even know the power dynamics because they look to the president to do everything. And that's an impossibility because they don't understand how legislators work within the power dynamics of their state, their local government, the federal government, and all the way up to the president. And all of those has different power dynamics that is in the progress of work and that has to be done. And so we have to let people know how it works so they won't become more and more misinformed, because there's a lot of misinformation that's out there that they may be absorbing that we don't even see, or, it depends on where they're getting their information from. And so we've seen how media, if you're watching certain forms of media, how it can inform you in a misinformation way. So we have to make sure that we are trying to get as much, like we are doing now, getting the information out. But then we, as Jill said, goes back to that listening tour, and then the education component of it, how we are planning on putting together, and what Derek going to be doing with the Democrat Party. So that's what we need. We need new ideas, new strategies, new messages, messaging, and making sure that we get inform the people properly, and they can make an informed decision when they go to vote.
And I think we need to be careful as the ones that know the information and has more knowledge than others, not to be judgmental. We don't need to show, oh, you mean you don't know that? Blah blah. So it's on our part too to not be judgmental and try to empower the individuals without making them look, belittling them or making them feel like they are incompetent or you should know this. And so that's on our part to make that happen. So we're going to begin in January or no later with us with the education component of it in February. But of course, you all know that watch the show that when we do the listening tour, the educational tour, and support whatever Derek is doing, we all work together. Christina will be having something in her area. Jill is in one area, we're in another area. And you can join us. Join us. If you're in the area and you want to do what we do or want to hook on to us and be a part of us, then just call one of the hosts and we'll be glad to make you a part of it and kind of connect you to what we're doing. It has to be a collective effort.
Jill is in Okaloosa and Christina is in Santa Rosa County. So, and we over here in Escambia County. So, you can't say you can't contact somebody either place because we got people all over. So, and we know in Panama City we got people there that's working on the ground. So it's yeah.
I was just going to say, and this is where I know I touched on it earlier in my announcement, but this is where it's imperative that we get people from the community to join the Democratic Party and specifically the Democratic Executive Committee. We have these wonderful things that we talk about that are called precinct committee people or precinct captains, and it sounds like a lot, but it really just is your neighborhood or your area. The people that we can focus on who will commit to doing some of that work, whether it's like educating people in your specific neighborhoods, having these listening parties that Jill alluded to earlier, having the conversations and being a part of the vote, because it's wonderful to express your opinion. It's to me a completely different thing to be a change maker in the organization and changing through vote. We talk about voting, in our elections. Get involved with the Democratic Executive Committees. Santa Rosa has one. Okaloosa has one. We have one in Escambia Bay. Wherever you are talking about, we have it. So it's not enough to just, let's talk about it, but let's also be about it. And let's get involved in doing what we do to affect the change that we need so desperately.
Yeah. So like I said, contact us. Let us know exactly if you want us to if you want to be a part of our network. And also, but we would like to hear about what's going on in your city, your state, other than Florida. We talk about Florida because we live here in Florida. But there might be some ideas or things that you all are doing in another area that if we were aware of them, we can implement them here. So again, we're reaching out to everyone, the sound of our voices. We must begin the planning and the work now for the 2024 election. Okay.
And those campaigns, the presidential campaign started in earnest in around March of next year in 2023. So it's not 2 years down. It's not 2024. It's 2023. And in 2024 is the election. So we have to be already prepared for not waiting to the last minute, nor should the candidates which we're talking about now. The candidates should be out and about all the time as much as possible. I know that if you're living in DC, you got a busy schedule. And I would encourage the Black Caucus members to not just go to their districts, but there are other districts out there that are not part of their district where they could help galvanize a lot of people in areas like here in the Northwest Florida area, where and we've talked about, you don't have to be the majority, just a percentage that can make the difference in whether it's whether it's the Senate race, the governor's race, congressional races, or state and local races. So we can make the difference if we are part of and have people enthused enough and educated enough and informed enough about what they need to do.
One thing I want to talk about is pertaining to what Derek's saying. I know he's running for the chair of the Democratic Party.
Here in
But
Escambia.
Here in Escambia, that's right, here in Escambia, I want to say that. I also want to, there might be some nonprofits out there that want to be a part of us, but think I cannot, there are guidelines for their 501c3. So we want to let them know that we understand that. And in the work that we do, we understand that. So there's a lane that you go in. And so the nonprofits, even though we work together, there are certain things we talk about and see how we can do it to implement both the 501c and the Democratic Party. And sometimes in some of the things we did, we had to be nonpartisan, depending on what hat we were wearing, because all of us are part of different organizations. We have our voices, the people's media, which we can work with the Democratic Party and community conversations on level, but we also are members of and board members of Movement for Change, which is a nonprofit. So there are certain things that we do. We lean toward voter education with Move for Change and giving out information and empowering people. And so then we put our other hats on, then we can lean toward the candidate. So I just wanted to say that because there might be someone saying, I would love to be a part of it, my organization, but we're nonprofits and we can't do that.
Well, and that's where Derek, the organization, the DNC, come in, because you can join the DNC and you won't have to worry about
as individuals.
Yeah, as individuals.
Yeah, but even here in Pensacola, like in Escambia County, and I will say, well, I say Escambia County, but let me rephrase. It goes all the way across the Panhandle, Northwest Florida. Prior to my time as vice chair here in Escambia, we didn't have a group or an arm that could coexist and work in unison with like NAACP, with Movement for Change, or any of the Divine Nine organizations. We didn't have that across the board until until I assumed the role as vice chair. And now we have the Panhandle Coalition for Civic Engagement, which includes Escambia all the way over to Bay. Now we've done a lot that focuses on Escambia, but it's open, as you mentioned, for organizations, whether you're here in Escambia, whether you're in Santa Rosa or Okaloosa, if you want the Panhandle Coalition to be involved in stuff, we're happy to do that. And that didn't exist prior to me assuming the role as vice chair. And so I think, as we talked about things that we do, I think using that umbrella to get the Divine Nine, more Divine Nine, Movement for Change, all the organizations that wish to be a part of the change, but don't know how because their bylaws restrict them from doing so. We have that ability. And if you don't have that ability in your area, just do what I did, create it. It's not much, it doesn't take a lot to create it. You don't have to go through it'd be wonderful to go through the official channels where you set it up through the entity as a government. You don't necessarily have to do that. It could be a name only, and work through that way of getting stuff done,
Yeah, that's right. Well, do you think it's time for Biden, before everything changes over, do you think it's time for him to push the John Lewis Voting Rights Act at this time before everything changes over? Do you think we'll ever get to approving that and pushing that over at all, the Voting Rights Act, before the House or Senate changes?
I would say they should try, at least in this lame duck session, try to codify voting rights into law before they leave. They got from now to, I believe, January to do that. So if they do that, at least try, and I know it's, one of the things they would have to do is cut out some of that filibuster or end it altogether. And I hope that when when Raphael Warnock wins, we're not gonna say if he wins, when he wins, that they would have they could easily have chair of all of those chairmanships. They would be the chair of all the chairmanships, which could force some of the issues that we think ought to be taken care of. But right now it's a even split because it's a 50-50 Senate.
Right.
But if we get 51-49, the chairmanships, they could bring a lot of stuff out of the committee to put on the floor.
So do you think that will happen? Now, Clyburn wanted, he said they should take up the voting rights bill. And also there was legislation reforming the Electoral Count Act.
Mm-hmm.
And he's saying that Biden should actually get that, try to get that through before January. So, Christine, do you think that's possible that he would do that, or he could do it? Is there a possibility it's going to happen?
Getting Voting Rights Act passed is a possibility, but before it was held up not necessarily because of Republicans, but because there were two Democrats that were holding out. Those two Democrats still have their seat. We don't have it's just a matter of numbers. How we would need Republicans to join in to get that passed, and that's just to get it passed. That's not necessarily to codify it. That's something totally different. You need a larger majority that we don't have to codify. But to pass, yes, it's a possibility, but you'd be looking at having to get Republican support to get that passed.
Does it have to be the 60 votes? How many votes would you need to get it for it to go through?
Well,
in the House and Senate? How does that work?
If they eliminate the filibuster or carve out some parts of the filibuster, they could at least get it passed through the Senate and signed into law. But like she said, to get it codified, you're gonna need at least I don't know if you'll need 60 votes then or not if they carve it out of the filibuster.
To codify, you still need 60 votes to codify. To pass, you just need the majority.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, even with Raphael Warnock, that if every single senator said yes, we may be able to get it passed, but we still have to pass both the House, the Senate. And like I said, it was Sema and it was one other Democrat that was holding out on it.
Yeah, Joe Manchin.
Right. Yeah, Sema and Manchin that were holding out before, and if they still continue to hold out, it's just not enough. And others have threatened, not to vote in favor because they wanted certain things passed as well. So we just need more Democrats. We really do.
Do you think that things can get worse if we? I'm talking about regarding the voting rights and voting access. You think things can get worse than what it is now by 2023, 2024?
So let me go back to what you were saying before. Do I think they should try? I believe they absolutely should try. I believe there's too much hanging on stake for them not to try. And if they don't try, we already know what the answer is to that. So I would say, yes, let's try and get this through. Let's really pull together, yes, I just want to be clear that yes, we should try. Do I think it will get worse? Yes, I do, particularly here in Florida. The reason why I say that is DeSantis is going to be able to ram through any law he wants through the state legislature, anything he wants. He has a police force specifically for him while he's running for office for governor that has to answer to nobody. We've already seen what he's done by arresting people who voted 2 years earlier, had voting cards. We've already seen the impacts of that. And he did that at a time, I feel, to scare us, to scare Black people from not voting. And, you know, you don't hear too much right now about how they couldn't charge him. It was thrown out, but that's after the fact. You know, what you saw is somebody getting arrested in front of their home, their name publicly destroyed, you know, off of, you know, everything else, being carted away for doing what they thought was their civic duty. So do I think it can get worse? It can absolutely get worse. And I'm really nervous about it. I truly feel our last line of defense is the courts, and I feel like we're going to be using them a lot in the next few years. And with Florida being stacked more conservatively in the courts, just in the past few years, for us, it's going to get a lot harder. I wish I was here with more hope and, you know, yay.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm being truthful. I'm being just as truthful as I can be.
Right. The Supreme Court, Jared, the Supreme Court, Christine was just talking about going through the courts. But even if we go to the Supreme Court, is it nonpartisan or is it partisan? And talk a little bit about
the
Supreme Court.
Supreme Court has become an arm of the Republican Party, and so have many state Supreme Courts, because they, you know, I was looking at a show today how the conservative right sent the country into bankruptcy during the Great Depression. So yeah, it can get very much worse. And then you got in the Supreme Court now, there, you know, where they're the legislators want to be independent so that they don't have to answer to the state Supreme Court. They don't have to answer to the governor of the state. They can run a roughshod over everybody, every citizen, and as long as they are state legislators. And so this state legislative case that's in the Supreme Court is very, very dangerous, and it's something that the Supreme Court should have never even heard, but they did, and they still are. Then you got affirmative action, which is in the Supreme Court right now. We don't know how they're going to rule on that. The ruling's going to come down probably around June, somewhere around there. And with all of these cases, they got 3 or 4 serious cases that has to be looked at, that they are looking at, that could do irreparable damage for years to come to us, you know. So I mean, when you saw what they did with abortion rights, when you saw what they did with voting rights, the Miranda rights, all of these rights that took place in the 20th century is being overturned because, you know, even though they was supposed to be cell law, but we see what happened when they, you know, all of them lied to the Senate. And that, to me, that's reason for impeachment right there, because they went before the Senate and lied to the senators, and the senators should impeach them and remove them out of office if, you know, if it was enough of them that cared about the state of this nation. But it's too many want to be fascist dictators in the country. And so that's why you got the kind of people you got on the Supreme Court and the state legislators around the country, in the Congress, and in the Senate as well.
So the only, Christine, I see you want to add to what Jerry said.
Well, I would also add, I know I got my email this weekend. I don't know if anybody else did, from the Treasury Department about the refunds. They came back and they said, hey, you've done everything you need to do to get your refund. Unfortunately, it is being held up in court. And once we defeat these lawsuits, you'll be able to get your refund. I mean, that's what they're doing. They are going after every single thing Biden has done and passed and attacking it. And they are using state funds, our taxpayer money, to attack it. So whereas we have to come like to you know, defend this and talk about this, we're using all of our resources to get everything out. They're using our taxpaying dollars to hurt our own communities, and it's insidious.
And we have to talk about student loans, you know, that's a big problem when we talk about held up in the courts. Because now, Biden did extend the time, is that correct? Does anybody have that date, that new extension date?
I think it was,
Deep into next year, my
Yeah.
understanding.
Yeah,
somewhere.
but exactly what that date is. They'll find it, but we need to tell them now exactly what that date is. But they were complaining, remember, Bill, about we don't want $10,000,
Right.
$1,150. Now, when they're taking it away and holding up, everybody is saying, you know, where's the money? How can you
Right.
hold up the $10,000? And so they're seeing now that if it wasn't for Biden, they wouldn't have the 10,000 or 20,000. Now they don't have anything. Do you have that date, Christina?
I'm pulling it up now. I know
Oh,
I got
It's
it
December
emailed.
31st, 2023.
December 21st, 2023.
December, then New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2023.
Well, he's extended that deadline.
Beyond 2023?
Oh, you said.
No.
You said
Okay.
2023?
Yeah, 2023.
oh, yeah,
Okay.
that's next year.
Okay,
Next year.
so they'll know that they don't have to worry about it. So everybody might not have gotten that information. And we want to make sure they know they can rest easy. Parents can tell their children, whatever, that they don't have to worry about it until that time. And they were saying even that when they look at it and they make a decision, you still won't actually get your money if it goes through until 6 months after that, up to 6 months.
Right.
So, you know, it's going to be a long time, I would say, before they actually, you'll know if that 10,000 or 20,000 will be available. And I think it's what, 40 million people that will be affected. Am I right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. So that's something. So I want to talk about former First Lady Michelle Obama. She said that, I don't know if y'all heard this, she always, when she was First Lady, she wanted to wear braids.
Mhm.
Y'all heard that?
Mhm.
And she said that she didn't want to wear braids because, you know, well, with blacks, the braids weren't professional. The braids were more ethnic, and so she couldn't wear them. You know, she wears them now. If you've seen her
Right.
out, you've seen her with braids. And she made that statement, and we understood what she was saying, and I think the other side understood too. But they're trying to make an issue out of it. And make it as though that she's the one that's racist. How could she say that she's saying what society would not have accepted? And how could she say it because she must be racist and talking about the other side as though they would have accepted it? Oh, Jared, you want to
I
talk?
was gonna say, this is why they had to pass a Crown Act.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you had to pass a Crown Act so that the African American women and others can wear their hair the way they want to, the way it grow out of their head, you know, then, you know, that lets you know right there what is the standard, you know, other than, you know, if you don't wear it like I wear it, then you the problem, you know.
Mhm.
She become the problem, and she saw what they did to, you know, they drew up all kinds of stuff on her, you know, a woman with Afro puffs and AR-15 in her hand, you know, they said all kinds of stuff about her and President Obama. I mean, when you go back and look at the cartoonish and the mentality of these people back then, and still that way, it's just got worse now. They was vicious then, but it's worse now. So you think about that.
So you can understand why she did not wear braids.
Can we talk about, like, she couldn't even, do you remember the backlash she got when she wore a sleeveless shirt?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it was a sleeveless shirt and was just dogged in the media. I mean, just absolutely dragged throughout the media for a sleeveless shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And when President Obama wore a beige suit, they went, I mean, a beige suit that every other president has worn. They were showing the when Reagan wore different color suits and everybody else wore different. Nobody said a word except, oh, he wore a beige suit. Really? And that's news.
Yeah, but we have someone here. In fact, I see that she's on looking at the show. But we have a council person right here. And I just saw her the other day and I shared with her, her name is Penny A Day. And I shared with her how she ran for county commission or
City Council.
City Council. And she never once changed her style. You know, I don't know if you all know Penny A Day, especially Jill and Christina. You should know.
She's a beautiful soul. Of course, I know my sister.
Yes, Derek. But she wears her ethnic attire. It's her. It's how she is. That she's always worn it that way. And you would think that most people, when they run for office, we try to assimilate. We try to then change our essence to fit the essence of other people. So I'm hoping that will make us win. That'll help us to win if we kind of look like we assimilate. She never once changed her style. She asked them that you have to accept her the way she is, and if you voted for her, fine. If you didn't vote for her, fine. She won, and she still is her authentic self. Those are the type of people we need. People like that won't bend and don't try to be a chameleon. You know what I'm saying? If we can find more like that, and she knows the job. So we have a lot of blacks too that runs for office, and we can't say, well, you vote for them just because they're black. No, these are intelligent people that know what they're doing, that know the job. We have quite a few of them on the ticket this time, and so it's far past just because someone is black.
Well.
And they never ask that question to others. Are you voting for them because they are white? You know, that's a question that's never asked. And you know, when they used to come to me when we was campaigning for President Obama, when I was still working out in Pace and other places, oh, you just voting for him because he's black? I said, I was voting for white men before I voted for him. You know, so. You can't say I was voting for them because they were white, can you? I was voting for the person that I thought was in my best interest. And President Obama looked like me, and he is in my best interest, you know, because I'm voting for the next generation. I'm not voting so much for me, but for the next generation. When my grandson was born, the only person he knew was President Obama for those 8 years. So when I grew up, I never saw a black person even hardly in power locally, statewide, or nationally. You know, every once in a while you saw somebody you was happy to see them, but that was in the 50s, in the late 60s, you began to see more blacks. But before that, you didn't see that many blacks in a position of power.
So another person that we need to talk about, and all of y'all know the man sitting next to me, Jerry McIntosh. Jerry McIntosh is another person that holds to his conviction. He's the only one in Pensacola that wears, that I know of, that wears kufi. And if anybody sees him, he's gonna have his kufi hat on. Now, I don't know if you want to call him hat, it's the kufi, just kufi. But when he first started wearing you all, people look up and, of course you can say, I'm looking at, and Jerry had that conviction. If y'all know Jerry, if he wants to do something, he's going to do it no matter what. And he didn't care. He was the only one that wanted, but that was his style, and he held to that conviction. He didn't care what anybody said. He didn't care how they looked at him. Now it's so normal because now it's Jerry McIntosh. That's his signature look. That's what we have to do. And if you know, they'll know him by his kufa. And
It's funny that you say that, because I'm sorry to cut you off, because
Uh-huh.
about a month ago, we were sitting on the show and I kept looking and I'm like, what looks different? And I couldn't figure out what was different. And I said, this is the first time ever since 1993 that I don't think that I've seen you without one. And I didn't even know what your head looked like, to be quite honest. And so that's just how much of a staple it is. I'd never seen you without one. You wore one on the show. I kept trying to figure out on the show, like, why does he look different? And I couldn't figure out what it was. And it was the absence of that. So I was like, yep, that's what it is. So you aren't lying about that.
To the likes of Tenny Ade and Mr. Jerry McIntosh, and them being themselves, it's just remarkable. Daring to be who you are. I absolutely love that. Our gifts makes room for us, and Tenny ran with her ethnic attire and who she is, and she won. Because when she opens her mouth, what comes out is what draws and attracts.
Absolutely.
And likewise with Mr. McIntosh, our Voices watcher before I actually met Jerry down at the networking place. And Mr. McIntosh's library, I tell anyone who will listen, when I first saw his library, I was taken aback. And he has given me some great reads, but it's who he is, and his gift makes room for him. So anybody, I challenge to dare to be who you are. I am authentically me, and I make no apologies for it, but yes, I love it. And anyone who knows me knows that I worship. I know I'm not in the sense of a deity, but Michelle Obama, look at here, man. Y'all better, boy, look, I got the book, I got her on I wake up in the morning and she's on the wall back there, y'all. So they better leave Michelle alone.
Yeah. And in addition to being their authentic self, shout out to Councilwoman Broughton as well. They not only are they not just authentically themselves, but they also know what they're talking about. That's the one thing, it's great to be authentically yourself, but if you don't know what you're talking about, then I just want you to be authentically yourself in the force. As we see with Mr. McIntosh, with Councilwoman Tenny Broughton and others, they're not only are they authentically themselves, they know what they're talking about, and they care about the people through which they represent. Those are the three, to me, tenets and pillars of success and being successful and doing what you're doing. And I think they embody that, in all forms.
You know what, Derek, I'm glad you said that, because I just written down that everyone on this show, everyone that's listening to our voices on Facebook Live, you are people that think beyond yourselves. And that is so important, to get beyond me. What I'm saying? The me. You have to think beyond yourself and think about the greater. And if you keep that in mind, you will do a much better service to this community. If we're just saying this now, Jill is a person, Christina, they know what they're talking about. We have so many people that think beyond just us. You have to think beyond, you have to say, Jerry and Carol, we've retired and all that. We don't have to do that, but it's not about us. It's about others. Everybody in our community, everybody should have that same belief. And if we did, it would be collective, and everybody will start connecting to each other if we went beyond ourselves.
And that don't mean you agree on everything.
Right.
That's right.
That you do agree on, you can work together on. That's for sure.
Right.
And no group or organization can do this work by itself. It's going to take all of us combined to make sure the work is fulfilled. And also the knowledge that we have to gain. We have to continue to grow every day in knowledge as much as possible. And you're never gonna ever learn And the thing about it, I like around me, I like people that know more than I do.
Right.
Because in different areas,
That's
there are areas that I don't know anything about. So I want to be able to go to those individuals and say, how did this work? What do I need to do? So it's so much more out there than the things that I don't know is enough to make a whole new world out there.
You remember they used to have this slogan, reach one, teach one.
Each one. Shirley Baker, North
Each
Carolina,
one,
that's what she says.
Then we need to keep that. We need to bring that back because of the fact if we did that, each one teach one, each one educate one. If you do it that way, I think we can reach and expand it like Jill is trying to say and Derek is trying to say, all of us especially is trying to say, we've got to reach beyond ourselves. And if you do that, we can really expand it and get to the point where maybe we can make a difference. I know it seems kind of bleak. I saw one of the comments, oh, that seems so bleak. And it does, but we're not giving up. We're still going to fight. There's still options, I still say, Lord's still right there. I mean, we can't give up. We can't give up. We got to continue to fight.
Well, you have to think about how bleak it was when people were struggling through the cruelty of slavery and Jim Crow and all the other things that happened to us. They never gave up. The things that we enjoy, some of the things that we enjoy today, they didn't come easy. They didn't come.
Right.
Like Martin Luther King them started fighting in 1955. They didn't get anything done to around 1965. And before that, there were other people fighting, and they were just picking up the mantle and each one was taking that mantle a little bit further. But it after Reconstruction came the Ku Klux Klan and all of that. So it was a struggle. It's always been a struggle. Frederick Douglass said, if there's no struggle, there's no progress. And, he continued to tell, they all continue to speak through the visit of time, telling us to keep moving.
Keep moving. Keep moving. We've got to. And it's tiring, we all have been out there where we're so tired, but it's just in our bones, it's in our nature. We have to do it. Derek was so sick at one of our events, so sick, and yet he was there and he stayed the whole event. He probably went home and fell out, but that shows a committed person. And when they used to have when they had that boycott, the bus boycott, and the blacks would not get on that bus for no reason, and it was successful because everybody had a collective mind. And
they walked together for 381 days, walking.
Will we ever get to that point again? Will we ever see something like that again? Because when Derek got on the show at the beginning of the show and said all the blacks are running over to DeSantis, or we're trying to get out the word as to what's happening here in America, will we ever get to the point where the people were at the bus board, where they were committed to the cause, where they did not, nowadays, if you say, okay, now we're not going to ride the buses, you all,
because watch football.
Or we're not going to watch football, or we're not going to go to Dillard's, or we're not going to go to Target. The young people love Target. When are we going to get back to the point of sacrifice for the good of the overall good? Will we ever get to that point? You are.
We will.
Again.
We will.
With all of the things that are turning back, the reversal of all of the gains, it's a good possibility, but it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of effort, and like you said, it's sacrifice. Anything that you do is it's major sacrifice to give up things that you are used to doing, to change the direction and trajectory of your what you think ought to be. And those individuals saw that I'm not just walking for myself, I'm walking for future generations. And so that's what one has to look at. And you got to think about it. these were not just the elderly that was walking. These
Mhm.
were children as young as 6 and 8 years old that was walking. And they was walking for the future, but the elderly was walking for future generations that to come. And that's why Martin Luther King was saying that he wanted the young people to know that the things that they were enjoying didn't come easy. It didn't come without sacrifice. It didn't come without somebody losing their life. It didn't come without beatings and all kinds of rejections that took place back then in those days. So it is incumbent upon us to inform the people. History has to be told as well, because until people understand the power of history and the power of not forgetting, everybody is always reminding us of their history.
Right.
Until we remind them of our history.
Mhm.
But when we remind people, people want us to forget.
Right.
But there are others who will tell you we will never forget. You can go anywhere in any state, in any city, and find a historic area.
Mhm.
And then you're gonna find other things that are historic, and they're gonna tell you the history of those things. So whether it's a historic housing area, whether it's a historic downtown, whatever, all of that information is there. And so it is, we have to have the same information ourselves, and that will help propel the next generation into the future. But until then, and unless we do that, we're going to have a continuous people forgetting, because once you forget,
Mhm.
You're bound to repeat.
Right.
Kenny Day on our live Facebook stream weighs in with, thanks a lot. It's funny how anyone would have a problem with my clothes. Little do they know there's a beautiful painting in City Hall of an African-American woman wearing a head wrap and African attire. But the Pope prays to a Black Madonna. So there's that, and laugh out loud. But Lois Bless now weighs in with definitely a lot of work and a lot of sacrifice, and it could actually happen. Deborah Thompson, author, weighs in. We must begin to educate people so they understand the sacrifice, and they understand the sacrifice is worth the effort.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's move right along, you all, to HBCUs. We saw on one of the news channels this week, this white individual. He was a male, and and I don't know his name.
I didn't get his name either, but what they were doing was drilling these educators at the HBCUs.
Tennessee State. Yeah.
Tennessee State, yeah. And what was it? Did you get his name, Derek?
I don't remember his name. He was a senator for the state legislature.
State legislator, right. They wanted to know why the Blacks were going to TCU rather than the other white colleges.
Yeah, basically what he was asking was why are Blacks attending HBCUs, Black schools at a much higher rate now, and not going to the white colleges.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that was, interesting. And I thought we need to talk about why he seemed very concerned about it. Didn't you see that, Derek?
Yeah.
He seemed very concerned.
I don't know that it's concerned. To me, it's a great example. We have this thing where we, some of us point out instances of overt white privilege. Mm-hmm. And to me, it was a very clear example, not even concerned. It was just, in his mind, you have white universities. So why on earth would you want to go to Tennessee State? He can't fathom that someone would prefer to have their own education by their own, or what have you, as opposed to the University of Tennessee. You kept saying University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, and University of Tennessee, Knoxville, I think that's it, as the two pillars of exemplary education. Now, I'm not saying that UT Chattanooga and UT Knoxville aren't great schools. I don't know anything about them, but I do know about Tennessee State, and I do know why Black people, but he could not fathom the concept that somebody in this day and age would choose to go to something Black when you have all this.
When you have all these white institutions. And so look at it from the broader picture, exactly what he's saying. why would Black students want to go to a Black college, a HBCU, when we have all these white colleges that they should be attending? And that's why I'm concerned, because to him, there was a problem with that.
Right.
That was a problem with it, that he really did not understand
Right.
and was trying to, I don't think he was trying to, because in his mind, like you said, he was saying, he wanted to say these white colleges, but he didn't, but he let us know that's what he was saying.
Well, he didn't have to say it. He was expressing in no uncertain terms. That
Yeah.
you passing this college here to go to that college over there. That's what he was asking. And the thing about it, he, like Derek said, he couldn't fathom, that seeing that. What because all these Black students now are turning back to
To the
HBCUs, across the country.
Mhm.
And they don't understand it.
Well,
Yeah. Go ahead, Bill.
well, I'm a 60-year-old man, and just 2 weeks ago, I experienced my first HBCU experience over there in Mobile at Lad Peoples, and I am still taken aback. I missed out on something great in this life by not having that experience. I
Mhm.
mean, Black excellence on both sides of the field,
Right.
and the coaching staff, and the bands, and the flag. It blew me away. And no foolishness, no fighting, no. I feel robbed that I did not know, and that I just received that experience. And I've told everybody that I've spoken of this with, that I guarantee you, if I stay around, that will not be my last experience. If I had a do-over and went to had a choice of schools, I promise you it would be an HBCU.
You're right, and I agree with Bill, because I said the same thing. I had a chance to go to an HBCU. I'll just say back. I won't say how long, but I had a chance to go to one, and I didn't. I stayed in Chicago, and I went to a college in Chicago. But I regret it to this day that I did not go have the experience of going to an HBCU and being a part of it. So if you have the opportunity to attend an HBCU college or university, please do so. Let me read this. It says HBCUs brought higher education to a population often excluded from college opportunities. At their peak, there was 107 HBCUs that existed. Today, just over 100 HBCUs offer college experiences to a growing demographic of students. And HBCUs were only formulated or started because Blacks couldn't get into the white colleges. They were making it so hard. And so it's just like with everything else. Every time they put a roadblock in front of us and we go over that roadblock or around it or under it,
They find another one.
something else. Christina?
So I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it. So my family's from Tennessee. My grandmother went to a Tennessee State. She passed away 3 years ago, just the other day. My stepmother was also the ROTC commander at Tennessee State. And it's not just Black students that go to HBCUs.
Yes.
On top of that,
Yes.
it's so I really am interested in going back and listening to what they have to say. But honestly, I'm really appalled at the line of questioning that somebody who's again supposed to represent everybody, that this is where his head was at. I mean, it's just appalling. HBCUs are normally underfunded compared to predominantly white institutions. HBCUs are often seen as a threat to people who went to other institutions.
Right,
and then when you have excellence, like our vice president coming out of HBCUs and talking about you know, the importance of HBCUs, and to hear somebody who is a leader in a community not understand HBCUs, that's problematic.
Mhm.
Let me say this.
Mhm.
Back from the 60s on into the late 80s, most of your leaders, Black leadership,
Mhm.
came through HBCU. They either got their bachelor's there and went on to other colleges a lot of time, but most of them came out, you know, the Martin Luther Kings and all of them, they came out of HBCU, the Stokely Carmichael and all of these people.
That list when
Yeah,
you're talking, it's a few.
they came out of Jesse Jackson, all of them. They,
Mhm.
you know, they came out of HBCUs and went on and got higher degrees in other colleges. But you know, our daughter Tamika, she went to Tennessee State,
Mhm.
but she went on to get her master's and stuff in Chicago. But she definitely went there, and the experience, and I definitely wanted her to have that experience to make sure that she, you know, she get what she needed first without all of the other stuff that she would have to deal with
Mhm.
at white college, racism, teachers not treating you right, being all kinds of stuff that happen at these colleges. When you go and get that experience, once you get out of there, then you can go on and you deal with it, whatever you want to deal with, because you know how to deal with it, because they have mothered you, if you will, into the knowledge that you would need, and to make you believe that you can do anything.
I consider myself, my family is from Tennessee, but I consider myself from Maryland. I lived in a county called Prince George's County, Maryland, and it is the richest African-American county in the United States. And I honestly believe that that is because of the HBCUs that kind of surround that area. You've got Howard, you've got Bowie State, you've got Eastern Shore. And then when you add in the federal government and the laws that were in there that really helped establish, really helped establish ability to work and ability to excel, whereas other places didn't. I really believe that level of excellence is because of the HBCUs that are there, 100%.
Yeah. Let me read.
And just one other thing before, because that is so important. And also because you had a mayor that was there during that time who came through, was what was his name? That my mind went blank, but they caught him up with drugs and all of that.
I was wondering.
Marion Barry?
Marion Barry, he was awesome in helping, and when he first got there and everything, helping Black people get contracts, city contracts, all of that was that helped propel the middle class, just like in Atlanta with Maynard Jackson. And that, HBCUs was around there, all that knowledge was being drawn from there, and they could help push those individuals forward.
Well, I had an opportunity just to read a few names. And if anybody on Facebook Live has attended an HBCU, then put it on Facebook Live. Bill will read it and shout out your name because we really want to honor the HBCU graduates. So Martin Luther King, Morehouse, Thurgood Marshall, Lincoln University and Howard University, Jerry Rice, Mississippi Valley State, Spike Lee, Morehouse, Julius Chambers, North Carolina Central University, Toni Morrison, Howard, Alice Walker, Spelman, Pam Oliver, Florida A&M, Samuel Jackson, Morehouse, Taraj P. Henson, Howard, Jesse Jackson, North Carolina, Ralph Abernathy, Alabama State, Marion Wright, Elderman, Spelman, Langston Hughes, Lincoln University, Ralph Allison, Tuskegee, Lionel Richie, Tuskegee, Fred Shuttleworth, he went to Alabama State. He's the co-founder of Southern Christian Leadership. Booker T. Washington, Hampton University. Katherine Johnson, West Virginia State. She was the mathematician and a computer scientist. I think she was in that movie they talked about. Nikki Giovanni, Fisk. Yolanda Adams, Tennessee State. Colbert King, Howard. Evelyn Hammonds, Spelman, Herman Cain, Morehouse, and Kamala Harris, Howard. These are just a few.
Penny a day, FAMU.
All right, Kenny a day. So, and Michael went to FAMU, right? My brother went to FAMU. So, if you still, if somebody else says, shout, put your name in there, shout out. Do y'all know anyone else that went? I know Christina just said her family. We're seeing all the brilliance that come out of these colleges. And I want to say, it says, whenever Black people and their allies begin to make more urgent demands and even progress, there's an intense white pushback. You know, we always have that pushback when we try to exceed and excel. And that's not only with colleges, but anything we do with the towns that we got to get built. They burn them down. There's always that pushback, and so we have to be ready for that when we're pushing excellence.
Yeah, before you move off the list, I just want to, we forget our local folks, specifically. I know Councilwoman Broughton mentioned hers for FAMU, but you also have the wonderful Shauna Hale, FAMU. You go back to our, Saturday school days, and Tim Pugh, FAMU, Deborah Pugh, Spelman, all these folks who are doing absolutely phenomenal stuff, right?
So we have to support the HBCUs. We have to be there for them. We have to send our money. And I think that's what we fall short of as a people, that we don't do enough financial support. And we must get more into that. Even when you go to the store and say this, and you'll go up to the counter and your amount is $5.20. And they'll ask you, well, do you want to give the rest of the money to some
round it up
to something? And a lot of people, I'm saying myself sometimes, no. So we got
HBCU, then that'd be different. But some of that stuff they be asking you to round up to, and you don't see nothing that says, okay, you said there's money going there, but show me something where you say it's going.
Yeah.
If you don't show me that, I'm not gonna.
But we have to do more than what we do. And I'm sorry, when the candidates were running, and we did make pledges to individuals. But what you have to realize that there are a lot of people that are old school, like myself. Old school means that I still write checks. And so when you all have fundraising, when you have things like that, you're asking for monies and funds, consider the old school individuals, because we'll contribute, but we have a way that we're comfortable with. And you have to keep that. If you want, that's money that you're losing when you just say cash out and this way and send it that way. Even, so that's something to consider. So anyway, we have to be more open and give whatever we can. I'm gonna keep saying it, beyond ourselves. Now, Christine,
I'm sorry, B, just to tell you before we round out, I don't know if you're moving on from Tennessee State, but you do know that as a result of that discussion within the Tennessee Senate, they voted to reduce their funding by $2 million.
$2 million, sure did.
Reduce whose funding?
The TCU.
Tennessee State, because their whole premise around their argument was, they kept saying, why are you doing all this? They kept calling it aggressive marketing.
Well,
instead of students just choosing to want to go to Tennessee State, they framed it around, it was the fault of the university for doing aggressive marketing, to the point, one of the things that they added, and I think this is true amongst anywhere you go, where their enrollment exceeded what their capacity was in order to house those students. So, let's say they admitted 10,000 people, but they only had housing in adequate space for 8. Well, they're saying, no, you keep doing this aggressive marketing, and now you've now met yourselves or found yourselves with a $2,000 housing, a 2,000 person housing shortage. But that's across the board. Any university does that. That's not specific to Tennessee State, but to solve the issue, they decided to reduce their funding by $2 million.
Yeah.
Oh,
They
my
defunded them. And that's, if the capacity is such that they went over, then why would you defund them to the point where they cannot recruit, or because they want to stop that aggressive recruiting, because they understand that if you get all these African Americans in there, you're gonna have all kinds of knowledge coming up out of there. So,
Yeah.
One thing, Christina brought it up, as far as there are more than African Americans going to HBCUs. There's a lot of whites. And that's becoming an issue because of the fact they're saying, with all the whites going to HBCUs, and I found out there's even some HBCUs that almost all white.
Yeah, like
Right.
Hampton and other places.
Yeah.
Well,
Aware of that. But they were saying, I was finish this up and you can talk, Bill, I'll get you in. But then they were saying that with the influx of white students coming into HBCUs, will it hurt the integrity of and the culture of the HBCUs? Or should they just continue the same thing they've been doing from the very beginning, because HBCUs were started to empower Black youth? And so if they decide to come to HBCUs, then that same integrity is going to be there. So what do you say about that, Christina?
For me, I think it's great. And I think the more people that come, you get a history that's not told in, your regular K through 12. And then that stays with you no matter who you are, no matter what your race or background is. And I think that's powerful. And, I'm all for that. And if it's a public institution and you're taking public funds, you have to be open to the public. And I support that. I believe I don't believe it hurts the HBCUs. I'm proud of HBCUs. I did not go or attend an HBCU, but I certainly encouraged all 3 of my kids to do so. And I want them to attend. And no, I think it's powerful, and I believe in the power of education, and I believe that's open to all of our communities. It's who we are.
But do you think that they should, the HBCUs is what I mean, should continue to uphold the values and the vision and the mission of the institution?
Absolutely.
That was there from the beginning?
Absolutely.
Why?
That's why it was founded.
White universities do the same. They do that.
Right.
It's like I graduated. I'm a proud graduate of the University of Florida, and still to this day, the mission statement for the University of Florida is to educate white males of a Christian faith. That's what the point. That's what it says in the mission statement for the University of Florida. So why should FAMU or Tennessee State or whatnot been there? What they were founded upon, just because the diversity of their enrollment doesn't mirror what they were initially founded. I don't know that that's the thing.
Well, it could really be a good example of it. Somewhat of an example as an administrator of a predominantly Black school. I had a white parent to come in to the school, and now I said predominantly Black school. Now you knew that when you came into the school, and yet when you come into the school, you have a problem because your child is the only white child in school, not the whole school, but in that classroom. There's nothing I can do about that. You you came to a predominantly Black school. We can't change any rules and guidelines to fit that child. What they're trying to say is that if you have the white, and it's okay, like Christine said, we're not saying the white shouldn't go to HBCUs, but then let's not start changing our values and our mission to adjust to other cultures coming to the school.
Penny a day weighs in on our Facebook stream with no one is bothered when Jewish students attend Brandeis, Mormons attend Brigham Young, and Catholics attend Notre Dame. In fact, it's expected. Deborah Thompson says the funding reduction is only an excuse to try and eliminate the power of the HBCUs as well as cripple the progress of Black people. Deborah Thompson on our Facebook stream.
Christina, finish your thought.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I agree with what the Facebook users said. That I think that was a beautiful point. I started a master's program at Benedictine University. I didn't finish, but I started, but that was a Catholic university. Now, in what I was going for my master's for, now the majority of the folks were not Catholic, and many were Muslim and several were Jewish, but that didn't change how the university functioned. And the folks that went there who weren't of that faith, they still practiced their own faith and did their own thing. And it didn't change how Benedictine, which was a Catholic university, functioned or what it was founded on, or, had the different, parishes come in and speak and do stuff like that. But it didn't change that you had a large group of folks who were Islamic or a large group of folks who were Jewish. It didn't change, none of that changed. And I'm saying we can be welcoming in HBCUs, and particularly if we're taking public funds, we need to be, but it should absolutely not change who we are or why we were established. And we should act and function as HBCUs. That's a proud history to come from, and we should be proud of that. And we should be proud of these institutions of excellence.
Yes.
That have survived.
Yes.
That have survived. So many didn't.
One of the things you said was welcoming. African American people have always been welcomed into others to come into their institutions, whether it's the church, whether it's the colleges. Most didn't want to go there because they felt that the education was inferior, even though you had some of the most brilliant people in the world coming out of the HBCUs. And I think that's when Johnson decided we better do something, because all of these great leaders that has the knowledge of self and is talking about changing the trajectory of America, we better do something to make them at least think that they're making progress in the country. And but what they didn't realize that at that time, Martin Luther King then was writing legislation. They weren't just protesting. They was writing legislation.
Well, you all, it's getting close to the end of time, and we've got to speak on this. And I'm going to ask you a question, all you all listening to my voice at this time. How well do you know your friends? How well do you think you know your friends? Do you have friends? And if you have friends, how well do you know those friends?
And the reason you answered that question.
And Jill, I just want to, before we get into it, Jill, you have friends? You think you know your friends very well?
That's a great question. And I'm sure there's a reason why you asked this, but this is what I'm going to tell you. This is in my years here on earth. This is what I've learned. Some friends, those that are really close to you, that are your best friends, that you can tell anything to, and they tell you anything, and you know that they hold your secrets, your hearts, your pains. Those friends I know. Others that look at who I am or what I do or whatever, that pretend to be my friends and think I don't know. I know. So you can't always know. I think a lot of people think they know, but you don't really know. You have to be in your inner circle to really know your friends. That means that's that person that you can go to and say, you know what, I did this, and this, and they're not going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm leaving you alone. But what they might be there as a sounding board. They might be there as a reprimand, like, you know, that was wrong. You shouldn't have done it. This is what you need to do it right. Those are your true friends. But I would say my answer would be, I don't think anybody really knows their friends. You know, your best friend, but your friends.
I want to hit Bill. Bill is a friendly person. And I just want to ask him, do you know your friends, and do you have a lot of friends? And are you comfortable around all of your friends? And I'm quoting the word friends. What about that, Bill?
Well, that's a tough one because I love people, period. I mean, but when it comes to real friends, people that actually know me, I don't think that I have any friends. If you went down my call log in the last year, there's no guy that I call ever or that calls me unless I'm calling for a service or something that they offer, or they're calling about something that, but as far as chatting it up with or going to have a beer soda with or rolling with, I just don't, I'm not that kind of person. I don't have friends like that. I've got associates, but as a young child, my mom raised us as we often loosely threw the word friend out, that we didn't have any friends. She often told us that losers ran in pairs. That's the way we were raised. I mean, my siblings, I've got 3 brothers and a sister, and but for me going to my sister's house every Sunday evening for Sunday dinner, I've got a brother that lives less than a mile from me, and I haven't seen him in 3 months. I mean, mom raised us that the best fences make the best neighbors. So basically we were reared to be by ourselves and loners and depend on ourselves and trust in God. So as far as me having my best boy, no ma'am, it's just not who I am.
The reason why I'm saying this is, and you all might have heard, you should have heard about it if you haven't. This young lady, Shanquilla, I think that's her name. She paid for a trip, $10,000 for a trip to Mexico. And she paid for her friends to go on this trip. And after she got, I think 1 day passed. I suppose it had been a week trip or something like that. On the first day, they jumped on her, beat her up, broke her neck, broke her spine, and she died. But she was with her friends. She thought were her friends. So that's why I'm asking the question, do we really know our friends? And the guy that watched it, if y'all saw the video, was her friend. He had been to her house. He had been on trips with the family. He just had hung around with the family, and yet he watched that and videotaped it. So how well do we know our friends?
Well, he wasn't her friend. Like Deborah said, he was an associate, but he wasn't a friend.
No, he wasn't more than an associate. Associate is someone you see out there and you just say hello and you know him.
Yeah.
A friend, she thought that he was her friend.
Right.
He was at her house and he was like a family member.
Right. She thought he was her friend. But he evidently never thought he was her friend. Because if he had been her friend, he would have stopped that immediately. He would have said something. He wouldn't have been sitting there just recording something. He would have made sure that she was safe and okay, because that's what friends do. but sometimes your enemy can run right with you.
Smile faces. You sing that song, Billy. You sing all the time. Smile faces.
They lie. Smiling faces, they lie.
So, that's what I'm saying, Christina.
Miss Carol, I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you think that people use the word friendship like sometimes they use the word love?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love you, but you don't really love me, because if you love me, you wouldn't do all the things that you're doing. I'm your friend, but if you're my friend, then you would be there for me. You wouldn't allow things to happen to me. I think sometimes we have words that we just use and don't even look at what the meaning or mean what we say. We just say it because it sounds good.
So you've never been surprised at anyone on the panel? Never been surprised, and I've heard people say, I thought that was my friend. I thought we were friends. And that happens quite a bit. So what they were saying in it's just all on social media, that you really have to be careful with friends, because so many people are envious of you.
Yes.
Jealous of you, want what you have. So, Derek, have you run into that at all?
Yes, that's the funniest thing. Yeah, I am, going back to your original question, despite what some may believe, I am an introvert, and I don't keep, you can see the rolling of the eyes on the screen now. I don't keep a lot of people in my space, truthfully. And, I have friends that I consider to know, but I always live by the concept, I don't put anything past anybody, at any given time. So, I won't say, oh, I'm shocked at this person or what they do. No, I think I kind of assume the worst and am surprised or, shocked at the best. But yes, I've had people all the time who I thought either, I won't say friends, but people who presented themselves as people who have, my best interest at heart. And quick to find, oh, nope. They went from, they have my best interest at heart. They think I'm a great fit for this. So now can't stand me, and I'm like, well, okay, and it's just always something, where I think if you're walking in your purpose, that will always exist. You're never going to have people who are 100% supportive, because they may be jealous of you. They may not want you to have, they may want what you have, but more specifically, they just don't want you to have, or they just don't want you to do. So it's not even about them, it's about you. And there is nothing that you're going to do to resolve that issue. It is going to always be the way it is. So,
well, how do you know they feel that way? If they're in your face smiling and saying this to you, how do you know? That's the scariest part. How do you know they really feel that way?
They'll let you know. They'll congratulate you one too many times. I'm always leery of somebody that's constantly, man, that's awesome. How always they'll let you know. They will let you know.
Yeah, and it may take time. It may not be right away that you'll find out, oh, this person isn't for me. They'll let you know something that they'll do, or they get mad about something that you think is. I'm like, well, why does that bother you? About you.
Right.
And then it's like, well, because it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them and how they view the relationship and how you should be comporting yourselves within the dynamic of that relationship.
Absolutely.
And so you just have to be cognizant of and pay attention, because as Bill said, it will reveal itself. It always will. You just have to be able to pay attention.
It revealed itself to this young lady as she was being beaten. And they were asking, how come you're not fighting back? I think she didn't fight back because she was in shock. And she says, no, because to her, that's the whole thing I'm trying to say. To her, these were, remember, she paid for them to go to Mexico.
Mhm.
You see that villa? It was
Mhm.
beautiful.
Mhm.
She paid for everything.
And that's why
So she thought these were her friends.
she thought they were her
And she
friends.
was shocked. And I guess when the first punch came out, she was just totally shocked. She couldn't respond. So I just want to talk about that a little bit tonight because it's all on Facebook and it's just so
Social media, other media as well.
so hurtful and so painful that she went through that thinking that she was going on a trip with friends.
Yes. Sad. Hashtag sad.
I would
Mhm.
say
Yeah.
also, those same so-called friends after her death came back and looked her mama in the eye and said
Yes.
she died of alcohol poisoning. I mean, it's hateful, you know. I mean, walked in her home and
Mhm.
looked her mama in the eye and said she died of alcohol poisoning.
They said that they wouldn't even let the doctor that came take her to the hospital. There's a
Yeah.
possibility that she might have,
Yeah.
might have lived, but
Because they said the doctor did recommend saying that he wanted her admitted, and they were like, no, just treat her here.
They didn't have the right to say it. They didn't have
they might have different laws in Mexico.
any right to say, tell a doctor that she couldn't go to the hospital. That was the doctor's doctor overruled all that. So how
And it depends on the law that they have in Mexico versus
Mexico,
what they
yeah.
have here.
Yeah.
That's the difference. If you there visiting and you are not a citizen of that country,
Yeah.
you see, and so the laws that apply to a citizen may not apply to you. I'm not sure that's the case, but
I
that's
can see-
but that's what that's the only thing I could possibly see. The reason that the doctor didn't demand that call the police himself, because here the doctor gonna call the police.
Mhm, I know what
You know,
you're saying.
I don't care what you say. The doctor gonna call the police. The police coming. They gonna make sure that person get to the hospital.
And you also have to remember this was a villa for a private business or whatever, whoever, the corporation or whatnot that owned it. And that doctor wasn't like the doctor at, Sacred Heart or something. That was their in-house
okay.
position. So,
Okay.
he wants to contain, their primary goal is to protect themselves and their brand.
I
So the doctor isn't going to advocate unless, you appear just drop dead to say, hey, call the ambulance or whatnot, because they're going to try to do everything in-house so it doesn't tarnish the image of the villa,
Well, we got 3 minutes. I just want one last statement in regards to this, and then we'll have 2 minutes, and I'm gonna let Bill get on. But quickly, what's the difference? They want to extradite these people to Mexico instead of in the United States, and they want to take them back to Mexico. What's the difference in the justice in the penal system between Mexico and the United States? Well, will they fare better in Mexico or will they fare better in the United States?
But what do you mean by fair? Like
Going
the
to
people who
court.
killed them?
Going to the court,
going to jail.
Going to jail.
They go to jail there.
They go to jail. Do they want
I feel sorry for
in
them.
Mexico?
Yeah.
I
I
feel
don't know about Mexico, but I know they're gonna go to jail here.
yeah,
Well, if they're asking for them to come back to Mexico, they might not go to jail here. They'll be going to jail in Mexico.
Yeah, but the FBI is now involved, and that means that because you cross not only state lines, you cross the whole border. You're facing federal jurisdiction at this point in time. So at that point in time, I don't know who's going to do what, where, when, because I don't know that the Mexican authorities have issued charges yet, and in Mexico, but they have here in the United States.
Okay, Bill, can you do it in 1 minute? Then Jerry's got one book, so we can be out here in at 9.
Shout out to Alan Young, Shirley Baker, Louis Bless Pruitt, and everybody that watches us so loyally on Sunday nights. Shout out to the panel, everybody watching in WBQP TV land. The man with the kufi on is Mr. Jerry McIntosh, the man behind the McIntosh principle that affords us to come to you every Sunday with the issues that are about our neighborhood. If you would continue to help us transform and inform, we have a cash app, which is $MP Voices, $MP Voices. We ask that you donate to help us stay on the air. If you like, send us a check like Miss Carol does. She's a check person to P.O. Box 1024, Cantonment, Florida 32533. Then again, if you're watching us on the Macintosh Principle, www.themacintoshprinciple, click on the PayPal icon, donate, do your best, and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Want to thank Michael Wilson, my brother, Cedric Lacey in Georgia, and Michael Wilson from Chicago for watching with us. This book, The Soul of Black Folks, W.E.B. Du Bois. Love this book.
Got that one.
9 o'clock.
It's 9 o'clock. Okay. Randall Robinson, The Reckoning by Randall Robinson. It's a great book. And the last, The Important Works of Marcus Garvey.
Okay, thank you. And Bill, he bought you a book today too.
Oh, wow, nice.
He bought
I
you
got
a book.
W.E.B. Du Bois. I got that one.
Yeah, in fact, he bought one for everybody. We went to the store and I said, why are you buying all these books? I'll give it to one to Bill, give one to Dan.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Okay, all right, you all. Okay, we'll see you all next Sunday. Talk to you all later. Have a
Good
good
night,
night.
everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Steve Burr.
Oh, I got cut out. Okay, yeah.